Hey everyone, it's Allie, and we have a massive major update for the build that we need to go over. Today, we're going to be making your build a lot tankier. We're be getting you a lot of damage that you most likely were just missing because we kind of didn't express how important doing something that we're going to discuss is going to be. And I have some pretty major news when it comes to Uber Abberoth. If you want to start those news first, all I want to say here is that our build is most likely going to be very Uber Abberoth viable. That's going to require some pretty endgame gear to accomplish it, but we should be looking at about 6 to 7 minute Uber Abberoth times, which is pretty good given the current best build in hardcore judgment for killing it have about 10-minute times. This means that our build should be able to go from level 1 all the way to Uber Abberoth while having a super comfy time clearing and doing basically all content, which makes me really happy. But I do think with all the updates that we're going to be discussing over the next few days that we might be able to get there fairly reasonably. With that said, let's discuss all the things that we'll be changing about the build and, well, how the build is about to become very, very absurd. The first thing we have to go over is a new little bit of tech to the build that, well, kind of just gives you 10,000 plus health regen. Yep. It's absurd. What we're going to be doing on our gloves now is we're going to be looking for the experimental missing health loss per second and gained as word mod. This mod specifically comes from exiled mages, and what we want to do is get ourselves either a tier 1 or tier 2 roll of this. The lower the tier, the better in this case, given that we just want the minimum possible amount of this on us as we want to be sucked just ever so slightly from this. The reason we want this is because while we have this mod active, no matter what we do, no matter how much we regen, no matter how much we leech, we will never hit full life. The way leech works in this game is if you hit full life, all of your leech goes away. You'd have an infinite amount of leech instances happening all at once that are all healing you. And, well, because we can never hit full life, those leech instances are never going to go away, meaning that leech is immediately ready to kick back in the moment you take some damage. Without this, you would have to rebuild up your leech instances by doing a bunch of damage, and that is going to feel nowhere as good as how these gloves feel. I am serious when I say that these gloves will give you basically 10,000 health regen per second, and they're absolutely absurd. Getting these is a little bit of a pain. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be updating the filter to show you every single tier 2 and tier 1 roll on these gloves. And it's basically up to you to be able to craft them into something usable from there. Another possibility for you is to go over to the Rune Prison Complex Woven Echo and use the thaumaturgy device inside to forcefully craft it onto your gear. The way the thaumaturgy device works is it will allow you to choose what experimental mod you want to add over a prefix onto your gloves. And the tier of that mod is going to be based off of the tier of the 2 prefixes on your gloves to begin with. This means you're going to want to find yourself something like a tier 6 or tier 7 hybrid pair of gloves, craft a pretty good suffix on it, and then put 2 prefixes on the gloves, ideally damage over time and cast speed, and leave them at tier 1, and then go to Prison Complex and put the low life mod on it. And then from there, you can go and upgrade your prefix and have a pair of gloves. So please start killing every exiled mage you see, as they're a massive upgrade to the build. The next thing that we need to discuss is something that we were already doing in the build, but we weren't doing it well enough and properly enough that we were basically leaving over half of our damage on the table. To put it this way, what I'm about to discuss literally doubled my damage with me changing one tiny small thing about my build because I was not respecting it enough. What we're going to be discussing here is Rock Grip and exactly how it scales. Rock Grip gives you 1% more damage per slow chance and 2% more damage per 1% rot chance. We're going to ignore the attack and cast speed portion of it as it's not relevant for this discussion. If we want to look at a notepad really quickly, for some scenarios of time rot chance and slow chance, we can see exactly why this is super important. Each of these modifiers on Rock Grip are not one massive multiplier that gets added together. They are separate multipliers that happen in order. That's just almost a 20% DPS increase out of thin air for dropping time rot chance, which is technically the better scaler, and picking up more slow chance, which is technically the worse scaler. What this means for a build is really simple. This was something we were already doing in the build, but I just didn't mention enough, and especially of how important it is, that I feel like most people weren't actually doing this. All you're going to really have to do in your build is just take a look at your relics. If we want to look at my current time rot damage, I'm at 7,147 per tick in this current planner. If I were to go and swap the time rot roll on my idol over to a slow chance roll instead, and they're effectively the same number, so it should effectively be the same damage, right? Well, I go from 7,100 per tick all the way up to 7,379. Basically, what this means is that you're going to have to go and find slow chance on all 4 of your long idols. What we're going to be doing in the build now, and the written guide is updated with all of this, and if you go over to the equipment section, your new stat priorities will be available for you here, is we are now going to go and get time rot on both our chest plate and our helmet because this is a substantially bigger multiplier than any other prefix we could have gotten on here. Yes, this does mean we are dropping vitality from both of them, and that is completely okay, as the vitality realistically was just health, but as a prefix, that also gave you a little bit of resistances, which is not the end of the world and not that important to us. It did help us with damage in our 50s/60s where we really needed it, but outside of that, it literally just was health as a prefix. With Time Rot on your helmet and your chest plate, you're going to get slow on every single idol, and that, along with slow chance on your weapon, should pretty easily balance out where they're going to be about the same. In the character sheet in game, if you go to the other tab, you can see where your slow chance is and where your time rot chance is, but I would not actually use these numbers as they don't take everything into consideration. The way you should instead do is come over to Last Epoch Tools and import your character into the planner, and then simply go over to Office and scroll down until you find time rot, and then hover over it and look at the numbers at the bottom to see where your current split is. In my case, in this planner, it's 190, 336, and well, the bigger number and the one at the bottom is typically the time rot one, meaning I need quite a lot more slow chance in the setup. With that, hopefully that should give you quite a lot of extra damage, and it should feel really, really good. Finally, what we need to go over in this video is going to be the major change for the build, which is going to be dropping our 3 set and instead putting on a Bastion of Honor. What Bastion of Honor does is it's going to give you 1% block chance per strength against enemies within 4 meters. For reference, 4 meters is about this middle circle, meaning it's fairly large by default, and given we want to be within the anomaly bubble range of every enemy we fight, it's basically going to be active at all times. With Bastion of Honor, what we're going to want to do is to grab ourselves enough block chance and enough strength to hit 100% block chance. Now, you can't look at the block chance on your character sheet. You have to take this and add it to your strength to get your actual block chance, as Bastion of Honor doesn't actually add it here. If we were to hit 100% block chance, what we then do is just take our block effectiveness percent and gain that much damage reduction against all hits that happen. So in this case, if I had 100% block chance, I just take 32% less damage from all hits, which is an absurd and massive defensive layer. To make this actually happen, it's honestly fairly simple to get there. First off, you're going to have to go and farm yourself a 1 legendary potential Bastion of Honor and a 1 legendary potential Anchor of Oblivion. We're going to be completely dropping a Code of an Erase Sentinel from the builds, which is fine. It's not the end of the world, and Anchor honestly is just as good, if not better. Anchor has a 40% endurance roll on it, meaning you can get to drop endurance literally everywhere in your build and still be endurance capped, and has a hefty amount of void damage, and most importantly, a big strength roll on it. What we're then going to want to do is we're going to want to put a tier 7 strength roll as the legendary potential on our Anchor, and a tier 5 block roll as the legendary potential on your Bastion of Honor. With a tier 7 block roll on your shield and a tier 7 block roll on your relic, all you're going to need to do is go over to the Age of Winter and get yourself either a 7 or 8% Grand Bones of Eternity blessing, along with you grabbing yourself either a tier 5 block chance roll on your ring and a tier 5 strength roll on your other ring, or simply just get yourself a tier 7 strength roll on one of your rings, and that should very easily put you at 100% block chance. In terms of farming these items, it's pretty simple. For Anchor, all you have to do is simply come over to the Fall of the Empire timeline, gain stability to full, and then fight the boss at the end. What you can also do is go and use the Collapsing Horizon Woven Echo to put a Harbinger on the current timeline you're in, which basically counts as if you killed the boss, which will drop its loot. The Anchor has a higher drop rate based off of corruption, so try to push higher corruption. And if you do the Collapsing Horizon Echo, you want to lower your corruption, as this thing is very hard, given it has an extra health and damage multiplier on it, on top of what your corruption is already giving you. For the strength roll on your relic, you can also look for any other tier 7 attribute roll, given you can go and do a Ordnance Watch Woven Echo to then reforge the attributes on whatever item you put in there over to strength, assuming you have at least 1 forging potential on the item when you do so. For the Bastion of Honor, all you have to do is simply buy it if you're playing Merchant's Guild, and again, you do need 1 legendary potential, or if you're playing Circle of Fortune, just use Shield Prophecies, and it should only take you about 100,000 favor to do so. There'll be a guide in the description below on how exactly to go about using prophecies if you don't know how, and what you need to keep in mind for all the Anchors and all the Bastions that you're going to be farming is that any 0 potential version of them can simply be taken to a Nemesis encounter, put inside the Egg of the Forgotten, and you have a pretty high chance of hitting 1 LP on both of them. I believe Bastion is a 1 in 8 and Anchor is a 1 in 6, so even if you don't get a natural one to drop, it shouldn't be too difficult for you to do so. One thing you might be asking yourself is, Allie, doesn't this make us lose a lot of damage? And well, yes, that is the case. The amount of extra tankiness that you're going to gain from this is so absurd that, well, it's 100% worth it. With just the Bastion and you being at 100% block chance like this, you can very easily be able to face tank Abberoth and basically anything under 1,000 corruption with basically no problems. This also then allows us to start making some more greedy and DPS related changes to the build, which are going to more than make up for the DPS loss of the 3 set and give us substantially more damage than we ever had previously. In total, we're looking to about quadruple the DPS they're currently doing. And given earlier in the video, we talked about the whole time rot slow thing, honestly, you're probably going to gain quite a lot of damage from that in the first place. It's going to more than make up for whatever you had from your 3 set. That's all we have for today's update video. There will be another update video in a day or two that's going to talk about all the changes we can now make to the build, given we can put in a Bastion of Honor. And, well, I hope you enjoy the absurd amount of extra HP and tankiness that this is going to provide you. I am excited to gear this character up for Uber Abberoth. I'm excited to give it a go, and it's going to be really, really fun to farm out the last few DPS upgrades we need to get ourselves to the point where we can do that. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment in the comments below. I'd be more than happy to help you as soon as I can. I also stream on Twitch every single day, so feel free to come by Twitch and ask me any questions there. Or if you simply want to come and be a part of a community and come and hang out with other kitties, I'd be more than happy to see you either there or on Discord as well. With all that said, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you all in the next video.